Hey everyone, it's Bobby. I'm gonna go ahead and put this Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet together. I just came in earlier, so I wanted to get this one put together before the others. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this set up and get it ready to go.
Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your knife or razor or whatever you use to open your boxes with. Go ahead and cut all around. I like to use a flathead screwdriver to help pry it off the glue. Luckily this one didn't have as many. Then we're going to go ahead and just take everything out slowly. The goal is to take everything out and put it back in the way that it came, so that way you don't have a big mess and you can easily take everything out to the trash or store it if you'd like. So I usually start with the backboard, unless the sides are kind of stuck in there. You want to maybe go one box at a time, but sometimes it's easy to go ahead and pull the sides out. And so this one wasn't too bad. I went ahead and started with this. There, they look pretty good. Another reason to start with opening the sides first is a lot of times during shipping, damage can occur with the boxes, and usually the sideboards are the ones that get most of the damage. So always good to open those up and check them out, make sure it looks good before you start tearing open any other boxes. But it looks like this one had a couple things sitting kind of on top. You got the manuals, you got the coin door. Everything's kind of individually packaged with all this little shrink wrapper on it, so it is packaged pretty well. I try to lay everything out on something that's soft, like a rug or a carpet. I haven't got my rug for this room yet, so unfortunately I'm using a blanket, which it's better than the hardwood floor, but I wouldn't suggest, because while you're building it can get caught in between the screws sometimes. So, but you just gotta make whatever work. Just try not to do it on a hard floor, because you don't want to scratch those sides up while you're building. And as you can see, I'm just putting everything back in the way I took it out. Then I start laying out all the pieces. Get everything faced up so where you can see all the letters of everything. So for step one, you're going to get the D1 and D2 panels, attach those together, and add the wooden dowels to G as well. As you can see, I have everything laid out on the blanket here, around the sides of the walls. So we're going to go ahead and get those two panels together. They did have to add an extension on these later models due to the size being a little bit on the smaller size, so they wanted to raise them up a little bit, which I agree is a good thing, but unfortunately they can't get the size of the original panel all in one. So the trick is to just go ahead and get those brackets in there. First you want to put your little wooden dowels throughout on the G panel right here, but you'll also want to put them on that little panel that attaches to D1. Then you're going to go ahead and get these brackets set up. You're going to use a screwdriver. I use a battery power just so that way it'll go a little faster, but just be careful you use it on a lower setting and you don't want to get them through too hard. I would say maybe a level 3 on this one. Now for step 2, we're just going to attach the G panel to the D1 and D2 side panels. First thing you want to do is get that prepared, get it set up. Now I went ahead and checked on this panel to see if they lined up, and it looks like they do not. According to a lot of other people, these panels seem to be off the print a little bit, and sure enough, even though mine's lining up with the screws, the artwork is not. But not much I can do about that, so let's go ahead and get this G panel on. You just gotta kind of balance it, hold it with your hand, and get those long screws on the other side. Get that drill, make sure those wooden dowels lined up on the inside, and go ahead and just screw it in, and it should be able to balance itself. Now for step 3, all you're going to do is get these wooden dowels put into the K and L panels. So that's literally it. Looks like it tells you to put it on the actual sides, but you're actually going to do that on the next step with the screw. So just get the wooden dowels in, and that should be it for this quick step. Alright, so for step 4, you're going to actually get those K and L panels. Also, you're going to get the P panels, which with these, they don't have wooden dowels, so all you're going to do is use the 2 B screws, get those set up just like that. They're going to be really close to that bottom G panel. Just make sure that those silver screws face inward on both of those. Then we're going to get the K panel. Put that through. That one's only going to be held by 1 screw. Actually, those are bolts, I believe. Same thing as before, make sure the silver parts, or the letters usually, are facing inward. And then go ahead and get that last L panel put on just like that. Everything should be kind of just hanging. Alright, for step 5, you're going to get these screws put on the monitor. Those little plastic pieces facing outward. Doesn't have to be fully lined up to the side, just pretty close is okay. Just make sure they line up to those holes on the actual monitor. Go ahead and do that to all 4 of these. Definitely want to use a low setting on the drill as well for this. Alright, for step 6, all you're going to do is attach that monitor to the side panel. But before I do that, I actually go ahead and try to remove this little plastic layer around the edges. I don't take the full thing off. This isn't required and it doesn't tell you to do this, but this is something that I've done over the last few years that seems to help. Because if you try to just pull it off straight with these screw panels, you know, the screws actually all the way down, you may have some plastic layer still stuck under. It just doesn't look good in my opinion. So all I'm doing is I'm just lifting it over the screw. After lifting the screw up about halfway, and then I go ahead and just screw it back down. Make sure you use a low screw setting. You don't want to actually crack through the plexi. As you can see, I'm just going to lift up the screw, take the plastic up on each edge. Just kind of do that all the way around the monitor. And that way when it comes time to actually taking this off, you can just take it all off. One big motion and it won't leave any little bits and pieces behind. This is the best way that I've found to do that. Then just go ahead and get those C screws. Make sure it's lined up as best as you can on both sides and go ahead and just screw those in. I like to do 1 screw on each side first. Alright, for step 7, it looks like a lot's going on here. Really all it is getting a lot of those wooden dowels in there. So you're just going to attach a couple panels together, just like this. You get the H. Go ahead and get that B1, I believe. Yes, B1. Go ahead and get those plastic pieces, hold it up with those little C screws. Just make sure it's lined up and you have those wooden dowels in there holding it together. Same thing with the speaker board, M. Get those wooden dowels on the ends. You're going to get these 2 panels, wooden dowels as well. Attach those together just like the other one. And 1 and N2 panels. Just like that. Alright, for step 8, you're just going to get those 2 panels that you put together along with the other speaker panel, and you're just going to put those into place. Now I found out when I built this, these do tend to kind of wobble a little bit, so you may want to use something to hold them up. I think this speaker panel did fall down a few times while I was trying to get some other stuff put together, so. And then also make sure that plastic wrap that we peeled up earlier is not in the way when you put that in there. And then just go ahead and set this panel down just over that like so. Alright, step 9. You're just going to get the light panel with H, put that into place on the board, and also peel off the little shrink wrap on the marquee. Just line up the wooden dowels on this one. Now I will tell you, while I build this one, you can tell right there, those wooden dowels on the top of H, I actually had those in the wrong spot. Those were in the screw spot. So make sure while you're building that you look at the picture and put those in the right spot. Alright, go ahead and peel this wrap off of this. Looks pretty good. I may not need to get another one. Nice and shiny. Alright, next step for number 10, we're going to get the coin door panel on, as well as sliding the marquee into place. Go ahead and just slide that down. Should be held up pretty well. You'll see a little bit of gap overhanging, that's okay on the top. Now for the coin door, if you don't have the lights from Retro 530, you don't have to do the step that I'm doing right now. But I like to get all the lights put in these new cabs that I built now, so if you do have them, go ahead and just follow through with this, or you can skip to the next step if you don't have that. So for this one, all I did was take off the little light coin door parts. They're tiny little screws, so you're going to want to use a little screwdriver to get that. One of the screws did strip a little bit, so just be careful. Go ahead and put it back onto the panel. And I used a little, the actual same screwdriver to take those little screws out to make little dents. You can use any kind of tool you want, or a marker or whatever, but you just need to see where you need to drill. Go ahead and get that panel stood up, and I like to put a little bit of painter's tape on each side to collect the dust that comes off of these things. Now the drill bit that you're wanting to use is a 3/8 drill bit, and just make sure you don't go too fast. I forgot to put painter's tape on this side. There we go. So go ahead and just start drilling through. Like I said, go at a pretty good speed. You don't want to just ram right through that thing, but have to make sure that drill is set on a higher number. Go ahead and take off the little pieces around the edges the best you can. I suggest taking like a little screwdriver, just going through the inside of that hole to make sure that it's clean. And the panel just fell, so you don't want to do that. You just get all the dust on the other side, but luckily it's still collected a lot of it. Alright, next step, you're going to get the little coin door light parts put back on. Put those little screws into place. Just like that. And you're just reversing the process. Sorry if you see my feet in the video, I'm trying to keep them out as best as I can. And the next thing, you're going to get these little caps. Make sure the smaller part is on the inside, just like it is on the manual. And then just go ahead and get these little screws put into place. Be careful on the setting for your drill, because it can, I have seen them crack. So just, if you use a drill, make sure you do it at a low setting. And then you're going to go ahead and just get this panel. You can kind of rest it there if you'd like. As you can tell, this speaker or actual control deck panel fell over while I was doing that. Just make sure it's lined back up with those wooden dowels. That panel that's on the bottom actually goes on the outside of that little wing there, so it doesn't actually go in those holes, which is a new addition on these newer cabs. So just kind of get that lined up as best you can. It should be pretty close to the bottom there. Once you get that full side panel on top of that, it'll all kind of lock into place. But I used a little stool to just kind of hold it up because it will fall down if you don't. And it should look just like this. Alright, for step 11, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did to the other one, except these are the E panels for the sides. Go ahead and get those wooden dowels in there, get the plates on. I like to hold it as best as I can with one hand. That way you have some pressure while you get these screws put into place so that there's not a big gap noticeable on the outside. And then just like the other one, I like to look at the panels, make sure everything lines up and looks good. And it looks like it is not lined up either. But actually it doesn't look as bad as the other side, but it's still off, especially at the bottom there. Alright, so the next part here, which is step 12, getting that side panel on with all of these B screws, bolts. Now this part, it does help to have another person, but I build all my cabs by myself, so if I can do it, I know you can too. But it is a pain. You usually have to line up everything perfectly. Things fall down sometimes while you're trying to hold them up, and it's just a pain. As you can see, I realized at that point that I put those wooden dowels in the wrong slot, so I had to end up lifting that side back up and putting those back in. But now, everything is lined up good. You will have a little bit of movement in that marquee, but that's okay as long as it's inside its slots. That part right there, make sure, like I said, that plastic is pulled up a little bit. It definitely helps to have it done ahead of time. Otherwise, it may get stuck underneath there when you screw those panels down. And I like to go ahead and just kind of start on one end of the cabinet and work my way around. Doesn't matter which way you work yourself around, just go ahead and just slowly work your way around, getting things lined up, the wooden dowels into place, getting those screws put into place, making sure everything is good. And as you slowly start working around, you should be able to go ahead and pop everything into place. Sometimes that coin door panel is a pain to line up, but it sometimes will make a popping sound as you start screwing those down. Just get those panels put there, make sure they're lined up. Sometimes you gotta move them around just to line it up. I like to start on the big panel first, screw that down, and then go ahead and do that small little extension at the bottom afterwards, so that way it doesn't bend while you're screwing it together. One more right there, and it should look just like that. Alright, step 13, all you're going to do is get those little C screws on the monitor on the other side screwed into place. I like to do those first before I screw in anything on the outside of the panels, just to make sure everything lines up good. Go ahead and just get the other ones prepared, make sure everything looks good. And it looks like those wooden dowels need to be lined up a little bit better, so just as always make sure those line up good. Go ahead and get those screws getting ready and start screwing those side panels in. It should look pretty flush. And down here, get that one screw in on one side as well as another wooden dowel on the control deck area. Alright, step 14, we're just going to get these little wings on the side. Be careful when screwing these in. You want to do it pretty slowly. Make sure the wooden dowel lines up on each side to hold it in place, and just screw them in. Just like so on each side. Be careful, those wooden dowels, sometimes they slip out. Step 15 is just getting those 2 B screws in on each side. Now I would suggest leaving one of those a little bit loose so that the control panel can sit in flush, which you'll see on this next step. Actually, step 16 is just pulling off the little plastic wrap on the monitor, so I'll just go ahead and do that, which should be much easier now. Alright, step 17 is just getting the control panel connected. Go ahead and take off these little tape pieces on the side, lift up on the little deck protector right there. Go ahead and get this thing, that little sticker right there for the A. Grab the cables. You'll have the 2 cables to connect to the control deck. Like I said before, just try and maybe have to loosen that screw on one of the side panels. We'll go ahead and get this connected first. Make sure that ribbon cable is seated all the way down. Just look at the tip to see how it goes in. It only goes in one way. Once you get it, just make sure it's firmly seated. That way you don't have any issues after you boot it up. Then go ahead and get the other cable. That's a little black one that just goes right on the side there. It snaps into place. I would do that after the ribbon cable. And then just go ahead and clip it on this little tiny plastic clip right there, just to hold it into place. Once you do that, you should be able to put that back down. Go ahead and loosen that screw just a little bit, and boom, it goes right into place. And you can tighten it back up. Now this little deck protector can be a pain. I would suggest using something, maybe a screwdriver or a little knife, something just to kind of peel it on the corners. You're going to peel the plastic on each side, usually on both sides. And go ahead and peel the side that's going down first, and then go ahead and peel that top layer. Alright, step 18, you're going to get that deck protector screwed down into place, as well as the little bat joysticks. Be careful when you screw these in. Use a very low setting on the drill if you're doing that, because they will occasionally crack the plexi on the deck protector. Get those little plastic pieces down, and I like to use a little plier just to hold it in place while I screw the bat tops. Now this is actually step 19. I forgot to get the video of the manual on this one. But all it is just plugging in the connections. So I just plugged in the sound output there, then the light marquee, and then I'm going to also go ahead and plug in the Retro 530 coin door lights. I did have to use a little screwdriver to kind of clean that hole out a little bit more, just so these would go into place. They should slide right in. If you need to use any hot glue to hold them in, you could do that as well. And then just go ahead and plug in the USB tip right there next to the sound output. Just like that. Everything should look just like so. And go ahead and get that power outlet part. Slide it through the bottom down there. Connect it to your power adapter, and I like to go ahead and plug it in and test it out at this point. Go ahead and turn it on, make sure everything turns on and looks good. All the lights come on, the coin door lights and the marquee and the sound. Then after this, I usually just turn it off and go ahead and work on the next step on the riser. Alright, for steps 20 and 21, I like to do those together. It's all about getting that F panel put on and the power adapter connected, which we had already done to test it out, so I'm just going to unplug it. Then we're going to go ahead and get that F panel. Make sure you have it on the right side up, which at first I didn't. So you want to get that flipped over. Go ahead and plug that adapter on the inside for the power adapter. Make sure that little plastic piece snaps into place, and go ahead and line it up into the grooves and make sure it slides right into place for the next step, which is screwing it on. And just go ahead and get those 3 screws screwed into place, just like that, and plug in the rest of the power adapter cable. Alright, last step in the manual is 22, and it's all about getting that riser put together and adding the actual cabinet to the riser on top of it. So first step is just putting in all the wooden dowels on all these panels. I like to set it out just like it's going to get built. The P's in the middle, right and left on each side. So go ahead and just start with one side. Careful, as they do tend to fall over if you're not holding it up. And this is also where it helps to have just a rug and not a blanket, because occasionally it will get stuck inside of the riser on the little tips, just like that. Go ahead and work on the other one. And this riser pretty much uses all the same screws. I believe it's a G screw. Just go ahead and work your way around. Make sure everything's flush. And after you're done putting all these screws into place, you'll have these two little panels that go on the inside that kind of hold the cabinet up as well. It should look just like that before you get on these other two outer panels. Just like building a box. Some people like doing the risers first, get them ready. You can do that if you'd like. Sometimes it's a little bit of motivation. But anyways, you get those two little panels I was talking about, put them on the inside. Make sure usually the letter's facing down. The hole's a little bit bigger so you can screw it down. Make sure it lines up good with the hole underneath, and don't try to drill it in too hard. You don't want it to strip right through. So I usually put this on a low setting on the drill. Alright, on that last step, you're gonna go ahead and just put the cabinet itself, just kind of lift it up, angle it down, and just slowly, gently put it on the riser. Make sure it's even all the way around. And then some people don't like doing it, but I usually do it just to hold it into place better. These screws can be a little finicky when you try to screw them in, so I usually try to do it on a lower setting and also go in a little bit slowly on that drill, because if you go too fast, it'll just go right through and it'll be just way too loose. Luckily these are holding it pretty good, so go ahead and get the power cable plugged into where it's supposed to be and hide some of those cables, and push it on back and get ready to turn it on. And lastly, we're just going to turn it on, make sure everything looks good still. Coin door lights are good. Screen turns on, marquee turns on, sound. Sometimes the coin door lights can occasionally fall out if you move it around a little bit, but everything looks good on this end, and I'm going to go ahead and set up the Wi-Fi and get everything tested and gameplay wise. But I think I'll go ahead and do the actual testing and gameplay on another video. Just wanted to do a build video for everybody, and hope you enjoyed.